Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Orphan Last, aka Skylar Madison, and today I've been requested to make some videos that are more like training wheels for drawing in perspective. This video is going to be focusing on one-point perspective, and this is just something that might be able to help you just get started. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out this rectangle tool. I'm working inside of Affinity Designer, and some of the reason for that is so that it kind of puts emphasis on the fact that you don't necessarily need to have a whole bunch of perspective tools, rulers, and all that, whether you're working digitally or whether you're working on pencil and paper. Now, when you're working with pencil and paper, all you need is a horizon line and a vanishing point. That's all you need. You don't necessarily need to draw out a perspective grid if you're working on pencil and paper. But since I'm working digitally, I do want to have a perspective grid, primarily because once I establish a vanishing point, I could be zoomed in at any point on this canvas and having to pan, draw, in order to get every single line to go from one end of the canvas to the other, from the vanishing point to the object that I'm drawing. That can get really frustrating. So a perspective grid kind of speeds you up quite a bit. So for the vanishing point, what I like to do is I use the double star tool. If you don't see this when you're using Affinity Designer, there's a whole bunch of shapes through here, double star tool, okay? And so I go ahead and create a shape, and I go ahead and give it as many points as it can possibly have. Its inner radius, I dial it all the way down so that it looks like a vanishing point, and the point radius I dial all the way up. I then go ahead and grab the move tool and place it right on the horizon line. And the way that I do that is there's this horizontal line that's going right through here. And I just go ahead and line that up. Now normally inside of one point perspective, the one point perspective vanishing point is in the center of vision. So it would typically be like this, okay? But with photography and with pictures that you draw, a lot of times the photographer or the artist winds up cropping out some of the image, and so that moves the one point perspective vanishing point to a different location on the canvas. And so something kind of interesting right there. So technically speaking, I can move the one point perspective vanishing point to different locations on the canvas. So I'm just to be creative, I'm going to just move it right here, and I'm just going to grab one of these corners and press Control and Shift and make this thing grow quite a bit. Alright, and now we need to go ahead and give it a stroke. You know, I might want to play around with the stroke thickness a little bit because I don't like having the lines so congested at the vanishing point itself. That right there kind of annoys me a little bit, and that's good. When it's just this really small dark blob right there, it's just because all the lines are getting congested in that one point. Now, what you need to understand about this vanishing point is that all of the lines that you see going towards that vanishing point are just parallel lines that can go on forever and ever and ever, and they never intersect, okay? The only reason why they look like they're converging at this point right here is because these are foreshortened lines. These are lines that are coming to you or away from you, okay? So this set of lines that I've gone ahead and drawn out, you know, they're roughly parallel, okay? They're not supposed to ever intersect with one another. So like this is if you were looking straight down at them from a helicopter. But let's say you're in that helicopter and someone's standing right here on the ground level and he's looking at these same lines, okay? They would be doing something like this, okay? That's what he would be seeing if he were to text message you an image of what he was seeing. All of those lines would stop looking as if they're parallel, although they are. Okay, so let's get into this. We need to continue making the perspective grid, and for me, I'm just going to go get the rectangle tool, and I'm just going to create a shape really quick here, and I'm going to move this shape underneath my double star layer, and I'm going to give this a green fill, and I might even just kind of thin this out just a bit. Awesome. Okay, so now I'm just going to move this over here, press Ctrl J to duplicate it and move it over, okay? Now that I got two of these vertical green rectangles, basically, I'm just going to grab them both on the layers panel and press Ctrl G to group them together, and that's just kind of handy for me. And so now I'm just going to control click and drag, and that creates 2 more of them. Now they don't need to be evenly spaced unless you're really anal about that sort of thing. Alright, and so at this point I can just press Control J a whole bunch of times and it'll duplicate them. But I don't like how they're kind of staggering down. I should have been a little bit more careful about that. So I'm just going to grab all of these and just press Control J and move them on over, and then press Control J again and Control J again. And if you really are picky, you can go ahead and select these and delete the excess, but there's really no point in doing that. It's fine if they're there. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab all of these groups with these green vertical lines or vertical rectangles, and I'm just going to press Control G to group them again, and I'm going to press Control J and then press Shift and rotate it until I have a whole bunch of horizontal lines. I'm going to change the color of this to being, let's say, purple, okay? And I'm just going to press Control and click and drag on this handle all the way out, okay? And that helps me out quite a bit. So now I'm going to grab both of these groups and I'm going to dial down the opacity to something like, I guess, 33% or something. That sounds good to me. And this double star, let's go ahead and change the color to blue. Now we can actually start drawing. Now the first thing that I want you to do, now I'm going to go into the pixel persona here, and I'm just going to use a pixel layer, which you can access right here, and I'm just going to use the brush tool. So this is how you draw a 3-dimensional box in Perspect. Now you use the purple and green lines. If you're using the same colors as I am, they change every single time that I draw. But if you're using the same colors that I'm using, basically you're looking at these perfectly horizontal and perfectly vertical lines, the green and purple lines, and you go ahead and you draw out a box, and I'm just going to freehand a box. And your lines don't necessarily have to line up perfectly with these lines. You don't need to use the lines that exist. You can eyeball in between them in order to draw out your box if that's what you want. So okay, we have one box here. Let's call this box number 1, okay? And then let's go ahead and create box number 2, okay? We're going to place it right here. Awesome, okay? And let's go ahead and make box number 3. And we're going to make sure that the vertical portions of the box are on either side of the horizon line. So box number 1 is going to be below the horizon line. Box number 2 is going to be above the horizon line. This line that's going all the way through here, that's the horizon line. And then box number 3 is going to be on either side of the horizon line, okay? So this is just to get some sort of understanding of how things behave because of the horizon line. Now there's more about the horizon line than what I'm going to be covering inside of this video, but this is just a good introduction to the concept of what it does. Okay, so now what I want you to do is use the blue lines that I've created for the vanishing point. I just want you to draw out a line that goes towards the vanishing point from each corner of box number 1, okay? Alright, so we've gone ahead and done that. Now let's go ahead and decide that we want to draw a box on these lines that went towards that vanishing point, okay? And this box is going to be constructed in point of reference to the purple and green lines, okay? Now you might find that you have some excess, just like how I do, and it might confuse things a little bit, and so you can go ahead and erase the excess that's on those lines that go off towards that vanishing point. And if you're actually paying attention, it looks like a transparent box, a see-through box, a box that's made out of glass. That's what this box number 1 looks like. And if we want to, we can see that this right here, that is the back corner of the box that we wouldn't be able to really see if it were no longer transparent. So let's go ahead and erase these lines. Alright, and I want you to start out in your adventure in learning perspective by drawing transparent boxes a lot of times, and then refining it so that it's no longer transparent after the fact. Now the reason for that is because trying to draw out a box like how I'm drawing box number 2 may be difficult for you, where you draw a line from only the corners that you need, and then you draw like an L shape to represent that back box. Okay, now that may be difficult for you because you might not understand which one of these corners goes towards the vanishing point. What says that you can't draw a line from this corner? Okay, I want you to draw your lines out as if they're transparent
so that you
can learn what determines whether or not you draw this line right here while you're constructing your box. I want you to figure that out, because I can go ahead and try to explain, oh, this line that you can draw towards the vanishing point isn't necessarily important because it's the corner of the square that's furthest away from the vanishing point. I can go ahead and say that, but it doesn't make any sense until you keep on practicing, okay? And you learn for yourself why you don't necessarily need to draw that specific line as a line going off towards the vanishing point.
And most of the time when I am drawing in perspective, what I am drawing throughout the entire time is transparent until the very end, and then I do a lot of erasing.
Okay, so now let's work on box number 3, and for some reason I wrote 2 here. Okay, box number 3. Alright, so we now have this. Let's go ahead and draw a line from each of these corners towards the vanishing point, and then let's go ahead and draw the back face of the box using the green and purple lines. Okay, so it's a transparent box. Right now it really does look like a box to some extent because it's transparent. However, once we start to remove some of the lines that make it transparent, it'll stop looking like a box. Let me show you. Okay, so I guess it kind of does look like a box, but the thing is since you can't see 3 sides of it, it doesn't really look like a box unless you start putting a lot of other boxes in context with it. Maybe you draw out a bunch of really small boxes around it, and as you do that, if I zoom in and stuff, if we only saw this third box, we wouldn't be able to see that it's a box. It doesn't look like a box anymore because it has no context. And so it's only until we start drawing a bunch of boxes around it, whether they're big or small, that they start to actually resemble a box. And these other boxes that you draw that kind of surround the third box, they will most especially make the third box look like it's an actual box when these smaller boxes are decidedly either above or below the horizon line. Again, if I were to draw a box that goes on either side of the horizon line, I wind up with the exact same situation that I had with box number 3, okay? This really elongated box that I've gone ahead and created suffers from all the same problems. And that's because it's on this side of the horizon line and this side of the horizon line. Okay, so now here's the next practice that I want you to do. I want you to draw out a square on box number 1, okay? I want you to just draw a box that is literally overlapping with box number 1. Okay? Overlap is very important when drawing in perspective. The more overlap that you have, the more confusing the picture is to work on the image. However, it also makes the image look more 3D. Let me show you. Let me draw out the lines that go off towards the vanishing point, and let me go ahead and draw it as if it's transparent, just because that's how I want you guys to do it, and then draw out the back face. Okay, now let's go ahead and erase the things that we don't need. I want you to practice erasing the things that make the box look like it's transparent. And this may be really difficult for you at first, but I guarantee it's just like reading a book. You might not know how to read initially, and it's really difficult, even very frustrating. But over time, you will be able to see instantly, okay, those lines need to be erased. Okay, so we have this box that overlaps with box number 1, and it feels as though this box that's overlapping with box number 1 is in front front of box number 1. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw a box that overlaps with box number 1 once again. Okay, let's do it on the opposite. All right, and we can even make it a really big box. Okay, now typically we understand depth and we think to ourselves, yeah, really small objects are really far away. But the thing is what if that object that's really far away, yeah, let's say it's getting smaller and smaller as it's going off towards the distance, but let's say it's really big. Okay, let's say this is just an absolutely enormous object. Okay, well, regardless of the fact that it's so far away, it would still appear as if it's a really big box. It would look enormous even still. And I've gone ahead and drawn this really big box behind box number 1 as if it's transparent, because that's how I want you guys to be drawing throughout this entire time, since this is the training wheels video, the video that's supposed to teach you the utmost basics of how to draw in perspective. So yeah, just like riding a bike, you have to have the training wheels. So I'm going to go ahead and now erase the things that make this box transparent. All right, now the thing is if this is behind box number 1, then we should probably erase the overlap between this box that's supposed to be behind it. Box number 1 is starting to look a little bit transparent. Okay, so let's go ahead and erase the things that make this box behind box number 1 look like box number 1 is transparent. Alright, so we've gone ahead and done that, and we can see that this box right here is behind box number 1. And we can also see that this box is in front of box number 1. Okay, this is you drawing depth, objects coming to you or away from you. And you can do more stuff than just draw boxes inside of perspective. Let's say we want there to be a road here. Okay, we can actually draw a big flat piece of paper looking object, kind of going something like this. Okay, now this is the equivalent of you drawing the bottom face to a box, and only the bottom face to a box. By that, this is what I mean. Let me just go ahead and draw out a box really quick here. Now if I'm drawing a road, or if I'm drawing a piece of paper sitting flat on a desk, it's the equivalent of me drawing out the bottom face to this, which is right here. It's the face that occupies this space right here. Okay, so let me go ahead and erase everything but that bottom face. Okay, there you have it. Alright, so this road is just like drawing out a bottom face, and we can go ahead and have like 4-way intersections if we wanted to this road, if we really wanted to. And this is how you sketch inside of perspective. This is how it's done. And maybe we might want to treat these boxes, box number 1 and box that overlaps with box number 1, as if they're transparent while drawing this road, because it's really easy for you to just draw a line arbitrarily on the other side and have it not match up with the rest of the road. Alright, let me go ahead and even erase this number 1 that I created earlier. You're familiar, you know that this is box number 1. Alright, so I'm just going to continue this road real quick out a bit more, and then draw a line that goes towards the vanishing point right there. Maybe that's out of the canvas, or maybe there's a parking lot way out here. And this is me just drawing big bottom faces to boxes. That's basically what a road is. So yeah, once again, I'm going to erase the lines that make box number 1 and box overlapping in front of box number 1 transparent. So that's making us be able to see the road right through them. Alright, so that's kind of cool. Let's continue making a 4-way stop here. Let's maybe draw the road as if it's transparent, so that we can actually just kind of make sure that the other side of this 4-way stop is just as far away from us as the other one, or so that the road is just as wide as the other one. Alright, excellent. So, and we can also make another road where the road turns a bit and have it go towards box number 3. And we can go ahead and make believe as if there's another parking lot out here and draw it out. Alright, and then we could just go ahead and erase some of this with the intersections And if we really wanted to, we could just use the vanishing point here and draw a dotted line, and that makes it look like it's a road going away from us. And we might even want to do the same thing on the other rectangular portions of this road. And this is supposed to be a parking lot out here, so we might want to draw some lines that go towards the vanishing point and just draw these big H shapes so that it has some semblance of being a parking lot where cars go. And you could do the same thing with the other parking lot. Use the vanishing point to draw out a bunch of lines and draw out a bunch of H shapes to simulate that this is a parking lot. And this is basically how you draw backgrounds. But there's more to all of this. I want you to continue practicing. There are other things about drawing in perspective that you need to be aware of, okay? And I'm just going to keep on drawing on this image. I mean, I don't consider this to be an exercise where you're drawing out and fleshing out a background. I want you to draw out another box, and I want you to do something like what we did with box number 1, okay? Alright, so let's go ahead and draw a box that overlaps with this box. And it's sitting out in front of this new box that we've created, alright? And I'm just going to get rid of what makes it transparent. And now I'm going to draw these lines out towards the vanishing point. Now, we'll notice that this bottom can intersect with this bottom face here. Now, let's see what happens when I draw out the back face of this box here that's overlapping with this new box that we created, okay? So, we come out with something that looks like this, okay? And it looks like it's physically impossible. How is it that this box is like that? Because it either looks like this box right here, it either looks like this box is somehow existing in a space where it's pushing either through this new box that we've created, but yet it's somehow not pushing through the wall of this new box that we've created. This whole region all through here doesn't make any sense. Or it now looks like this box right here is levitating off the ground. So you just need to be aware of things like that, okay? There are times when you might want something like this, and sometimes when you don't, because having a box that's levitating is fine. But if you want it to look like it's sharing the same ground plane, as if it's resting on the same surface as this box right here, then you might not want to extend out this far. The way that you would resolve that is either drawing the back face of this box either right here, where this line and this line intersect, okay? So now it looks like they're touching. See that? Or you might want to just go something like that instead, so that they're not touching. So let me go ahead and describe this a bit differently, okay? If we draw out a box that's touching at this corner, right? If we draw that out and then go ahead and extend this out towards the vanishing point a bit, it makes them look like they're touching. If a box shares the same edge, then it looks like they're touching. But if I draw out a box that is just next to an edge, it just looks like they're sitting side by side, but maybe at a different depth, a distance away from us. Kind of interesting. And I want you to fill up your entire canvas with boxes like this. Even if it doesn't make sense, even if it doesn't really make a background, okay? Now, I want you to continue drawing boxes that look like they're overlapping in front and overlapping behind objects. I want you to practice drawing boxes that look like they're looming over the scene. Who knows? Maybe this might be a gigantic alien aircraft or something flying around in the sky. Box number 2. You see the number 2 here? Box number 2. It could be an alien aircraft flying around. Box number 3, yeah, you can practice it, but you just need to remember that you need to have all these other boxes that have 3 faces visible on the screen at any given time. Here's what I mean by that, okay? If you notice, this box, you can see the front, top, and side of the box. This box, you can see the front, top, and side. This box, you can see the front, top, and side. Again, you can see the front, top, and side. front, top, side, right? Now the boxes that are sharing either side of the horizon line, you can see the front and the side, front and the side, front and the side, okay? You're only seeing two faces. The objects that are below the horizon line, you see the front, top, and side. On the boxes that share either side of the horizon line, you see the front and side. I'm just repeating this information because it's important. These are concepts I need to have drilled in your head in order for you to actually learn perspective. Now, I have two boxes that are in the sky. What makes them look like they're in the sky? Well, you can see the front, bottom, and side. Front, bottom, and side. And why is that? Well, they're above the horizon line. Since they're above the horizon line, you can see the bottom. When they're below the horizon line, you can see the top. Just think of it as when you're looking below the horizon line, you're looking down. When you're looking above the horizon line, you're looking up. Just think of it that way, okay? So boxes that are on either side of the horizon line, you're looking up at it and you're looking down at it. That's what I want you to perceive when you're drawing in perspective, okay? So it doesn't stop here. We can draw some much more advanced objects, okay? So let's draw just a normal box for right now, okay? And let's have it overlap with one of our other boxes. Okay, now what I want you to do with the front face of this new box, okay? I want you to draw in a bunch of blocky shapes, just like this, all right? And I want you to erase all of the stuff that was from the original box with regards to the lines that are outside of that whole region. It's hard for me to describe. I'm pretty sure visually speaking you understand what I'm saying, okay? And I want you to just go to each one of these corners to this blocky space that we created, okay? And I want you to just draw a line that goes from each one of these corners towards the vanishing point. Now we can go ahead and just decide where we want these all to go to simulate depth, but we have no idea if this region right here is even the same depth away from us. We need to make sure that it's the right measurement, right? Don't we? I think we do. So what we need to do is we need to consider that this corner right here is really important. So we need to draw a line that goes across here. Well, I need to have a line that goes from the vanishing point, okay, in order to determine the depth, the measurement of depth that we need to make sure that the thickness of this object is just right. And we need to draw out the entire back face of this object in order to find out the proper thickness to this object. You don't want objects to get thick, thin, thin, thick, thin, and all of that. And sometimes you'll forget, just like right here, at this corner right here, you'll forget lines that need to go towards the horizon line, and then you just need to draw them in later. Alright, so we've gone ahead and done that. Let me lower the opacity on this red stuff that I've done, and go back to my original layer. Now you can still do this, pencil and paper, it's just, you just need to be really careful, okay? We won't be able to see these faces here, we won't be able to see these faces here, but we will be able to see these faces. You just need to draw really lightly when you're drawing with pencil and paper. Okay, so now we have this really strange shape that looks like it exists in three-dimensional space. That's kind of cool. Well, let's go ahead and draw out some stairs, okay? Awesome, okay? Now let's go ahead and draw the corner of each of these steps towards the vanishing point. Okay, that's cool. So now let's go ahead and draw out the back face. And then let's go ahead and just refine it. Now that we can see right through it, let's just make it so that this staircase is no longer transparent in some of the space that it happens to exist in. So we have a staircase. Okay, well, let's try this differently, okay? Let's say we want to have a staircase, but we want it pointing the other direction. Okay, well, let's go ahead and draw out a box again. Okay, cool. Now let's go ahead and draw the stairs. We use the vanishing point, draw lines going straight up, use the vanishing point, draw a line going straight up, use the vanishing point, draw a line going straight up, use the vanishing point, draw a line going straight up, okay? And we can go ahead and erase all the stuff that we don't need to this staircase now. So all of this needs to be reconstructed. Let me go ahead and use a red layer really quick here. And so now I just need to draw the horizontal lines that follow the purple horizontal lines on my perspective grid at every corner of the staircase. Now that I have that, you know, I just draw a line going down, use the vanishing point, down, use the vanishing point, down, use the vanishing point, down, use the vanishing point. Okay? So now I can just go ahead and go back to my black layer, and I can just kind of draw out my staircase now. And now I'm going to get rid of that red layer. So now we have a staircase that's going away from us, and we also have a staircase that's moving to the right of us. Isn't that interesting? What if we want a staircase that's going towards us? Okay, well, it's pretty much the exact same workflow. You draw out a box, and then we go ahead and draw a line with the vanishing point, draw up, draw a line with the vanishing point, draw up, use the vanishing point, draw up, use the vanishing point, draw up, okay? And so now we can just go ahead and erase what we don't need, and now we need to use our red layer, okay? Okay, cool. So now we have a staircase going away from us, we have a staircase going to the right of us, and we have a staircase going to the left of us. I'm not going to bother making a staircase going to the left of us because there's no point. If you know how to make a staircase that's going to the right of us, then you know how to make it to the left of us. Alright, so let's continue on. Let's say you want to make a pyramid. How do you make a pyramid? Alright, well, let's go ahead and draw out the bottom face of a box, just like how you draw a road, okay? Now, this is where measurements become important. In order to find the center of a square, you just draw an X from one corner of the box to the other corner of the box. This region right here is center. And then we go ahead and draw a line that goes straight up. And then we draw a line that goes from the corners of the box to the end of that line that we drew straight up. And we now have a pyramid. Of course, it's transparent, but like we could draw a front face to something, and we could decide to have the point to the pyramid facing us. So we can just kind of draw out an X and use the vanishing point, and then just draw our corners to the end of that line that we used the vanishing point to, and we now have a pyramid right there that's pointing right at us. Now, why is it important that we draw that red X? Well, because it won't look like a pyramid. Here, let me just go ahead and, whoa, what is going on there? Let me just go ahead and draw out a top face to a box, okay? Let's just converge all of these four corners to a section. Notice how it's leaning a different direction, okay? Let me lower the opacity to this and just draw out the same top face to a box, okay? And then let me go ahead and just draw an X out and draw a line that goes straight down and go back to that layer where I have that box. Now, I was kind of lucky because when I didn't measure out center, I really just got close, but close isn't necessarily good enough.
Just getting it close is still wrong.
This pyramid is just a little bit more accurate than this pyramid. You see that, right? It just looks a little bit better. So just keep going. I want you to fill up an entire page full of boxes in front of other boxes. I want you to kind of experiment and see what works and what doesn't work. And I want you to do this a lot. I want you to keep practicing with all sorts of different sizes, shapes, and stuff like that on multiple different pages of your sketchbook until you feel like you've learned everything that you have to learn about this video and what I'm trying to teach you here, okay? And then we'll go ahead and move on towards 2-point perspective, doing this exact same exercise. Now, if you would like to actually submit your exercise that you're doing here to me and have me take a look at it, feel free to join my Discord server. A link is supplied in the video description below. There's places where you can share your works in progress and just your work in general. I'd be interested in taking a look, especially if you're new at this, and this way I might be able to see where you guys are at and what sort of advice you need from this point forward. If drawing backgrounds is something that you just have never been able to do, then everything that I've just shown you inside of this video is a good set of training wheels to help you get started. Now, the training wheels, they don't come off at the end of this video. I plan on making a few more videos like this where I'm covering more ideas. Now, while you experiment, you may find that you're discovering new ideas that I didn't cover inside of this video, and maybe possibly you might not know how to solve the problem. Don't worry, I think I'll be able to cover all the material over the course of multiple videos. This video is already 30 minutes long, and so I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys found it informative. Anyways, guys, that pretty much concludes it for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And if you guys would like to support my channel, there's a link to my Patreon in the upper right corner of the screen right now. It's a picture of my mascot. If you'd like to get more notifications from me, feel free to follow me on Twitter. A link is supplied in the video description below. And if you'd like to see more of my content, feel free to click on anything that's appearing on the screen right now. Thank you very much for your time.